Brothers and sisters, Brother John here, watchman for that great day. This week, we're going to do a little study again on the promises of God. All right, promises and appointed times. And I really want to talk about the Jubilee. So that's what I'm going to start out with right now, is the Jubilee. So, seeing as how we're coming to the end of the Jubilee, and really no one knows right now, we can set a mechanical date to the end of the Jubilee, but we don't really know when it's going to end until we find that the barley is of Eve, which means ripe and ready for a wave offering, and that's what will determine the start of the new month, as well as a new moon, or as when they blow the trumpet up. Okay, so the time is ticking away, and the days are getting shorter. Actually, they're getting longer. Right, the season of time where the light stays light longer. But here's what I was reading the other day, and I stopped as I was reading this. First, I read. It's in 2 Peter 3 and verse 8, 9, and 10. But mostly the first two verses. So it says, "But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day." The next verse goes, "And the Lord is not slack concerning his promise." And I stopped, and I said, wait a minute. Let's not go right to Genesis 6:3. Genesis 6:3 tells us that for God's Spirit will not always strive. I'm not even there yet, but I want to read it. God's Spirit, right? Genesis 6:3. "And the Lord said, My Spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. That's, as we know by now, enough of us know that the Jubilee determines a 50-year period. So what we're looking at in this scripture is 120 50s. So, or Jubilees, all right? So 120 Jubilees makes 6,000 years. So we know that that doesn't work when it comes to the 120 years of man's life, because back then they lived much older and later. And it also is determined even through the time of Abraham, where he lived to be 164 or 65 years old, and Ishmael was like 137, and all these different ones lived a lot longer than 120. So that determination, that understanding in Genesis 6:3, the 120 is times 50 years, which is a Jubilee. So a Jubilee, 50-year period, it would take 40. That's a very significant number too. 40 is a very significant number. 40 days, right? 40 days of the flood. 40 days Jesus went out into the wilderness. For 40 years, the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness. The years and the days, all right? 40. It's a significant number. It's quite the number. So if we take that 40 and we say 40 50s, what is that? It's 2,000 years. We take 2,000 years from Adam to Abraham. That's one. There's one period of 40 Jubilees. You got another 40 that goes from Abraham to Christ, okay? And from Christ you have another 40 Jubilees, all right? This is pretty amazing when you start to think about it, because we had Moses went up the mountain, and it was 3 times that Moses went up the mountain. First time he went up, met with God, then he came back down, then he went up to get the law. All right? When he came back down, it was the second time he came back down. Then he smashed the law. Then he had to go back up for the final 40 days. All right? So you got 3 times of 40, And you got 3 times the 40 since the beginning. This is the 120th Jubilee. There's no doubt. It's a fact. I just told a friend of mine that was over the house. I said, it doesn't matter. You know, you can tell somebody facts all day long. It can be written in a book, but unless someone believes those facts, it's not going to do them any good. It's a fact that Jesus died on the cross for our sin, and we need to accept that, and we need to be born again, is what he said. We need to be born again, or else we don't see the kingdom of God. So that's a fact. That's what he says in the Bible, and yet all the religions I've ever heard of, they don't lead you that way. A lot of times, and we're talking about religions like the Catholicism and everything else, they don't point to the man being born again. In fact, if they do, they're talking about something to do with confirmation or whatever. You're baptized at birth, and as a baby, and it's such a misleading. All right, so let's get back to the 40, 40, and 40. That makes this year the 40th Jubilee that we're in right now, that is coming to an end. It's a fact. Because if we're going to say this is the 119th, let's say this is the 119th Jubilee, right? If this one would be the 119th Jubilee, then that means that there's another 50 to go. All right, I won't be around for that because I'm 60 years old now. 50 more years, I'd be 110. All right, I might make it. I don't really want to be 110 when I go. I want to go now, and I know we all do. And we're all looking forward to that day, and that day is now. So that's a fact. And besides that, 50 more years for another Jubilee to happen. And we're only going to find it, this is what's amazing me too, we're only going to find out in the end time when the book of Daniel would be revealed, after the fig tree's back in the land, all right, after 1948, when the fig tree starts to put forth leaves, then you know the end is near, that summer is nigh, okay? The Yom, the day. Yom, the day, can be the day, the time, or year, all right? So, and it also speaks of the warmer hours, which are the daytime, all right, or the heat. So when it says summer is nigh, it's talking about the heat of summer. That's what you get in summertime, the heat. So it's a hot day. It's the heat is near, all right, or the day of the Lord, okay? All right. I know I'm kind of rambling on, but I have a direction here. I'm just trying to see how it all comes together. Because it's in the Spirit that I'm doing this today. I'm just letting the Holy Spirit lead me. I don't have anything too much. I have one thing I wrote down. I don't know if I'm going to give it to you that way or not. But the message that I have for you is that this is the Jubilee. It's a fact. It's ending. It's a fact. The determining factor of the end of the Jubilee, so that we can know, because we're right now saying it's the 16th of March. I've seen other people saying it's the 19th of March. Okay, that's in the Aviv search. There's a group that's online. It's called Aviv Search, AVIV Search, and perhaps I'll put the link in here, and you can go and check it out, because he has some great material and updates on his channel. It's not a video channel, but it's like a blog. Okay, it's a site. You can go to it and get some information. But here's the thing. So I'm reading that, and I realize that God is not slack. It says this, and the Lord is not slack concerning his promises, as some men count slackness, but long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, and that but that all should come to repentance. Okay? Then it says, but the day, okay, the day of the Lord, which is 1,000 years, the day of the Lord will start. Right? That's what it said in verse 8. It says the day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. So when we get to verse 10, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. So it's telling us it's going to come quickly. It's going to happen without notice. and it's going to happen at a moment most people are unaware of, and that goes back into other scriptures like Luke 21, 35 and 36, and be not burdened by the cares of this world, but be watching and praying that you're found worthy to escape all these things. Praying is just in that context is to pray. If you're praying that God will reveal to you when this time is, it's going to be very, very apparent to you that we're on the verge of going home, brothers and sisters. It can be any time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we have to wait to the end of the Jubilee, but just the same, we want to know when the end of the Jubilee is, because that gives us presence of mind. That gives us understanding about our time will start. Our rapture happens. The Lord is going to take us out, okay? That day that is approaching will start at the end of the Jubilee year, because he says his Spirit will not always strive with man, only for 120 Jubilees. If there's another 50 years, then that makes the part in Matthew where it says this generation that sees these things will not pass. All right? And we know a generation is 70 or 80 years according to the scripture, according to Psalms 90:10. So with that understanding, if a generation that sees the fig tree bud, 1948, and it's, even if you go to the 70th year as of May, let's just say, that's within the time frame. Another 10 years is only, that would be 80, but that's outside the Jubilee. This is the defining end. All right, that's what I want to. I'm excited about it, and don't think I'm yelling at you, but I'm excited that this is the defining end, and this is also what Paul wrote about, that we should not forsake the fellowshipping of the saints, even as we see the day approaching. The day he's talking about is the day of the Lord, and it is approaching. And with that knowledge, we can have comfort, all right? But it's going to be the day of his vengeance. That's what Isaiah 61, verse 2 tells us. So the vengeance is coming, and it's going to be a day that he comforts all those that mourn, because that's where it reads. It tells you in verse 2, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. What other thing in the whole wide world would be considered to be a year other than a year? Nothing. The year he's talking about is directly related to the Jubilee. That's what I'm excited about. 40, 40, and 40. And we're in we're not in the 39th. Actually, maybe we are. We're finishing up, and the 40th Jubilee is getting ready to finish, which means at that very point, the next 20 Jubilees will start. That's the 1,000 years of our Lord Jesus Christ, the man Christ Jesus. That's the time of his rule and reign, whether he comes back in 3.5 years from the time that this time of Jacob's trouble starts, or 7 years, okay? So there's no argument about 3.5 or 7 or 1 or however long it is. It doesn't matter, because at the time of the Jubilee's finish, that's the promise that Genesis 6:3 makes. God's Spirit will not strive any longer with man. That's the time of his pleading, okay? The striving is God pleading with man, come to salvation. He's showing you in the heavens and the stars, and before the Bible was written, that's where the gospel was. And they understood all of the meaning of the stars and what they meant. The story was foretold in the stars. That's why we looked up in September the 23rd and saw the woman with the child, right, being Jupiter in the belly, being there for 9 months or 10 months or whatever, and then coming out. That's the story, right? So we know we're in the time, brothers and sisters. We know it. So don't dismay. Don't think, it'll be as it was all the other times we've ever said. Because I've said many a time that it was going to be then, and I was excited then. And I was, beside myself at some points in my earlier videos for the last couple of years. I think I started making videos in 2015. And, there was many times along the way in the last, 2015, 2016, 2017. So about 3 years. About 3 years I've been making videos, almost maybe 3.5 years coming up. Okay? So many a time I've been on those in those particular videos talking about certain things about a certain date and a certain time, and it was coming. And that's the beautiful thing. None of us are wrong when we're pointing to the time coming. We haven't been wrong, and we will never be wrong, even though the day didn't actually happen. We're warning, aren't we? We're warning of this possibility that it's going to happen. All right? It's going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. Anybody that's projecting outside of the Jubilee, I got to tell you, this is the time. Now, when does the Jubilee end? That's what I want to share with you and give you a little insight into that determining factor. Okay, that's important, because if they don't get Nissan right, if they don't get that, if they're celebrating, let's say, like they were, I think it was 2016, according to the barley being Aviv and all of that, okay, the crop being ripe, they had added in already another, did they add it in? I can't remember. At any rate, they were off. They were celebrating Purim when it was really Passover. It should have been, okay? Should have been Passover. So every feast for that whole year was off. If it was going biblically according to the, they don't do that. That's why these calendars, I get annoyed with all the different calendars. They're close, they're about right, but when it comes to right down to the very nitty-gritty of it all, God is the one that determines Nisan. All right? So we can say right now that according to the mechanical calendar, it's somewhere between the 16th and the 19th, all right, of March. That would be the first day of Nisan. That would be determined end of the Jubilee. All right? But we don't know that yet, and we're still watching and waiting, and we're counting those days off. We're watching, waiting, hoping it happens before that time. You get me? I hope it happens today. I hope the rapture happens now. I don't want to have to make another video ever. I want to be in heaven with the Lord and rejoicing with you all. Hallelujah. Okay? I'm looking forward to the new. And I'm not looking forward to going another week till next week for another determination of the specific time that we're in. But I'm giving you this encouragement from my heart, and from Scripture, not just from me. I'm not making any of this up. If God's Spirit, you got to remember this. If God's Spirit, go in Genesis 6:3 and read it and think about it. If God's Spirit only will strive with man for 120 Jubilees, because that's what it's determined right there. It doesn't say Jubilees, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out it's not 120 years, because many people lived past 120 years back then and forward of that. Quite a many years, maybe a couple thousand years. Okay? So the point here is that instead of going on and on, the point is that God's word, his promise, right, as it says in Peter, 2 Peter 3:9, he's not slack concerning his promise. 120 Jubilees is coming to a point of end. So we have a determining end. We have a determined end. We have a rough estimate of the end right now, March 16th to 19th. Okay? We're pretty much just out of the middle of February. Okay? So we got a couple of weeks to go, or we could have a couple of hours to go if the rapture happens, right? You see? We're in a time period of waiting and watching. And so if we're going to be here, if the time comes we find ourselves in March, whatever, there is going to be the determined end. And now, to bring it back to this, let me read something to you to give you a little bit of hope. All right, as it works with the Aviv study and the search. All right, this is off of this guy's website, Brother Brian and his wife Linda. They go over to Israel every year and check out the just before they go the following year wherever they went, and then they go another year from that, 12 months, and then they look at the barley at the content, the moisture content in it, and it has to be a certain amount, this percentage of amount of moisture and everything else, so that when they put it over the fire, it doesn't just, it works. So at any rate, they have to be ready. The barley is always the first crop that will be ready for the wave offering, and it starts their month of Nisan. So they can tell a couple of weeks away from when it's ripe, maybe even a month. They can tell when Nisan will start by the condition or the ripeness or the Aviv or Abib of that plant, barley. So that's why we've been looking at this many years now too. It's not just this year that all of a sudden we're talking about barley, but we're back in that area of time where we're saying again, we're the barley. The first crop that is harvested is the barley. Then it's another 7 weeks, and you got Pentecost, which is your wheat harvest, and it's on and on and on. Each harvest has its wave offering, a thank offering to God. So here's something that'll give you a little hope. And this was written February the 4th, and I'll even give you a picture of what happened, because he wrote something February the 15th as well. But here's what it says. Lots to be excited about in Israel. The very hot and dry weather has arrived for at least a week. So this is a week earlier. This is like January 30th, I would imagine. At least a week, the hot and dry weather has arrived. Isn't that great? And he says that will push barley growth exponentially. That means it's going to grow quickly, brothers and sisters, and it's going to be ready by the time of, right now, March 16th. Okay? But we don't know. We don't know if God's hand in it, and get more rain, it grows less, or too much rain, and it holds it back. It's a crop. It's all in God's hands how that crop grows to fruition to where it's ready for a wave offering. So keep that in mind. That's how we find out where Nisan is, and no one knows. You could say that that's the day that no man knows the day or the hour, because you don't know when that barley crop's going to determine the first new year. Nisan 1. All right, now I'll give you a picture. Let me go back and I'll show you the picture. First, let me bring it up on the screen. So this is all, what I just told you about Moses going up onto the mountain 3 times. Isn't that interesting? 40 days, 40 days, and 40 days. Finally, after he came back, it was atonement, right? It was on the Day of Atonement. That was the 40th day. That's when he came back down. When he had the laws after the second time of breaking them. The first time he broke them and he went back up. But he went up the mountain 3 times. We always get it like 2. It's what somehow in our psyche we're thinking, oh yeah, he went up, came back down with the laws, and then he broke them and then he had to go back up. So that was 2 times. No, it's 3 times. He went up first to meet with God, came back to the people. Then the people said, go, we'll do whatever you say. Then he went back up and he got the laws. He came back and found out they weren't doing anything like what he expected, and they got swallowed up, the whole thing, right? But he went up 3 times. So it's 3 times 40 is 120 days. Interesting, right? When you apply that to the Genesis 6:3, the 120 years is actually 120 times 50, 6,000 years. That's where we're at. A lot said, in what I've just said. So let me see what we got here. I'm trying to bring up that picture. It says, here's a picture of domestic barley already coming out of the boot in the South Negev, sent to us by Pierre, and he says, this is very indicative of the growing season. And he says, click on that to bring up a picture. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you guys. There it is. There's the picture. Let me bring this over here so I can show you. You guys see that? Look at that. That's what's going on in Israel right now. That's the condition of the barley. Isn't that pretty? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The hot and dry weather has been there since January the 30th. We're in the middle of February. It's coming, brothers and sisters. Be excited. This is just a determination factor of when this crop is going to be ready for the wave offering. So that should bless you. All right? That should be a blessing to all of you that are watching me this week. And I hope it really encourages you, because that's, when I saw that, I go, man, that just means we're online. We're on target right now. Doesn't mean that it's going to, it still could mean, that we got, maybe they're going to add the second month in. Maybe the barley will not be correct, and, Aviv, found Aviv, in time for this March 16th to the 19th, wherever you happen to find yourself. I believe the Aviv search guy is saying the 19th of March. Brother Brian is saying the 19th of March would be your first day of Nisan. That would make April 1st your Passover. All right. So a lot of other things bring us home into the thought of, Amos 8 tells us that 8:2 tells us that the end is come, and the end also identifies the Jubilee coming to an end as well. The end has come upon my people. I will not pass by or pass over them again. All right? So something is coming, brothers and sisters, and we're at that time of his coming. Right? We're not saying something is coming. Actually, if you want to be technical about it, something is leaving. It's us. We're leaving this earth. Going home, brothers and sisters. That's the important thing. That's all that matters. The thing that matters, this earth doesn't matter. Anything that goes on right now, the wars and rumors of wars and the earthquakes and all these things, not that it doesn't matter to the people going in those, that are in those, living in those areas. We pray for those people. We pray for our brothers and sisters that are in the war-torn areas, that are coming to Christ in the droves. All right? Many, hundreds of thousands of people, even in the last few years, have come, maybe millions, have come to know Christ Jesus and are waiting for him even at this moment. Their souls are saved. Their ticket is paid. They've accepted the blood of Jesus for their sin, and God has forgiven them their sin. And he's bringing love and joy and peace when he comes. And we're going to meet him. We're going to meet those that have passed on before us, and we're going to meet all the stars, if you will, of the Bible. We're going to meet Moses. We're going to meet Adam. We're going to meet, Zechariah. We're going to Daniel. We're going to meet these people. There are brothers and sisters. Well, they're not sisters, but there's sisters in the Bible. Mary's a sister. Mary Magdalene, she's a sister. Okay, there's many sisters. All right, we're all brothers and sisters out here. But I'm talking about the stars of the Bible that we read. Rahab, not Rahab, but was it Rahab the harlot? At any rate, all of us are going to meet in the sky, in the air, very, very soon. And it could be today, and it could be tomorrow, it could be an hour from now, it could be a week from now. The fact is, all we need to do is be watching, ready, and realizing that as the day of the end of the Jubilee starts to appear, if we should be here, and we're moving along, the next week comes, and the next week, it's going to start to look like, remember what I just read in 2 Peter says that God, our Lord, is long-suffering, not willing that any should perish. If he gave a promise in Genesis 6:3, and it was 120 Jubilees, it would seem that the Jubilee would have to come to an end for him to be truly long-suffering, give it every last minute right to the very end. But I'm not saying that the rapture can't happen before then, all right? But look at it like that. If that's the case, that would be the maximum time. That would be where his Otherwise, he's going to be a liar if he gives us, God is not a liar. He's not a man that he should lie, all right? So when he says 120, that's what he means. And the 120 is those Jubilees, because it works out to be 6,000 years. We're in the last days, brothers and sisters. Fact, fact, fact. We're in the last days. 40 Jubilees from Adam to Abraham. 40 Jubilees from Abraham to Jesus. And 40 Jubilees just about finishing up within the next couple of months. Let's just say the rest of this month and March, okay? That's where we're at. That should give you joy unspeakable and full of glory. And no matter what's going on in your life, you should be rejoicing and be glad. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. All right? That's the name of that tune. Let me check my time. I'll see if I can just add anything else to what I've said. All right. Well, I've only been speaking for half an hour. I think that's probably long enough. I started to do a study on appointed times, and it's an interesting study, but I'm not really ready to roll it out quite yet. But do your own study. Do a word study on and see how many verses come up with appointed time. Type that into a word study and check it out. Appointed time. It identifies with Exodus as well. And the last thing I'll leave you with this is this, besides blowing the shofar. The Exodus is a type and shadow of a deliverance. So when did the Exodus happen? It happened in the month of Aviv. It happened right there at Passover, and it happened as of the lamb's blood being placed on the door lintels. Okay, that's the sacrifice of the lamb, and it was put on the doorposts of our hearts this time. See, so there's no need for us to go through an actual Passover. But what it was showing was there was a type and shadow of the Exodus was a God deliverance of the people out of that land and bringing them into the promised land. Okay? And that's what we're about to do. We're going to be taken out of this Egypt. This is the Egypt of today, brothers and sisters. It's not a little country over there in the Middle East, even though it is. But it's not speaking in those terms. It's speaking in the symbolic terms of the earth is now the technical wonder and technology is expanding throughout the earth, and all of the creature comforts of the world can be gotten off the internet if you have the money. See, so we're in a particular time which is looking at it like it's Egypt. The world is now the Egypt that we're being delivered from. So if that works for you, and it also ties back into Moses, who delivered them out was Moses. So Moses was a type and shadow. You could say he was the deliverer, so he could fit that position of being Jesus, the deliverer. Okay, but he also could fit the idea of being the Holy Ghost, because what did he do? Moses went to the mountain, or the kingdom of God, because the mountain is like the kingdom, right? In the holy mountain. He met with God the Father, right? Who sent Moses back as the messenger, come back, right? And give something to the people, the laws, right? And so the identification could be Moses is like in the representation idea of the Holy Ghost, all right? He came back to the people and gave them something in which they could be fruitful if they followed. So as we follow, as we're directed by the Holy Spirit, we also know, all right? Because that's coming into our heart directly from God, because that's the way that God made it. Jesus Christ, the way, the truth, right? And the life. Hallelujah. So with that, I'll leave it there for you guys this week. God bless you. Keep me in prayer. I love you. Thank you for your blessings along the way and your gifts. You guys you are sent by God, all right? God has a purpose and a plan for each one of you out there. Don't dismay. We're on the way out. All right? Don't dismay. It could happen today. Let's think about that. What? The rapture. Don't dismay. It could happen today. Think of it that way. Oh, no pun intended. Love you. Love you all. God bless you. I'll blow the shofar and hope to hear it soon from the real guy, from the real angel that blows the shofar. Take your earbuds out. Hallelujah, brothers and sisters. There you go. I didn't give you the three little blasts. I feel like I ripped you off. Let me do that one. Hallelujah. I get blessed when I blow it. I surely do. I'm still practicing on the other one. I'll even give you a blow on that one here. Still practicing, so don't laugh. I got two volumes, a low and a high. If I can even get it to go. I need practice on this one. Sorry, brothers and sisters. Sometimes it flows. I just pull it up, I put it onto my lips, and I blow it, and it's just awesome. I haven't been able to get that sound that I'm looking for. There you go. That's what I was looking for. It takes a lot more breath to blow into this one than it does to the other one. But God bless you all. Thank you for bearing with me on that. It's a little tough sometimes to blow these things. This one especially. But God bless you all. I know you love me and forgive me for not getting it totally right. But I'll get it. Time's coming when I'll have plenty of time to practice. Hallelujah. Brother John, watchman for that great day.